Welcome to our final Birth Parent Search and Reunion Group webinar series. And we have had the pleasure of hearing from Ming, Laney, and Charlotte, who also happen to be our CCI board members. And they've just been sharing and opening their hearts with us about their stories and how they search for their birth parents. So for our final one tonight, we are going to hear about just kind of advice and tips and tricks from them, things that they wish that they had known when they were searching for their birth parents. So thank you so much for tuning in, and here they are.
Hi everyone, so my name is Ming and I was adopted from Kunming, China in 1994. And things that I had learned in my experience with searching and still am interested to learn, I would say most importantly, just to keep an open mind that things can change at the drop of a hat. And you really have to be careful about having expectations about anything regarding the search. I think it's, you have to be realistic, basically. Sometimes you might have things just sort of land in your lap and you have to just kind of like roll through. And regarding the time frame, you might not have enough time to actually emotionally, digest everything. So that's okay. It's just that you'll need to also find time out of your day, whether you're in China or if you're in America or in any other country that you're doing your search. Really try to find time to, journal, or if you like taking photos, or if you like spending time with your friends or your family, but really try to find the people who really understand you for you. And unfortunately, sometimes you might have some close calls and false alarms with people, and that's all right. That's part of the experience. And sometimes it can be a drain mentally, emotionally. So really try to do your best to take care of yourself. This is a very big personal endeavor that I would always support my fellow friends in their search, because it's personal. This isn't just I'm going to just try something out in my life. This is a very important experience that if you want to take it, on, you have to be willing to try and be 100% about it. If you decide to take a break, that's completely all right. And I think that is actually natural. If you don't take a break, that is what can lead to burnout very quickly, emotional and mental burnout, as well as just your daily life. Things can, interrupt your search. So that's something to keep in mind. Like I said, being realistic is important. Also, being optimistic is okay. It's not wrong, but I think it's good to always check in with yourself, whether that be, again, writing or watching a movie, or, maybe doing something that would distract you a little bit. Because, again, search is very daunting at times. It can be stressful, and especially because of language. I think something that I took away from this experience is the little Chinese that I knew did help a little bit, and it at least helped me connect to the people who translated for me. Granted, many of these people did it out of the goodness of their heart to translate, which I really appreciate. That is one other thing in searching, is don't ever take people's help for granted. Meaning, like, people may offer help for a second, just relish it, like enjoy it, I guess, because that helped me not happen again in the future. And I'm not saying this as a means of being harsh, but it's more just like, this is the reality. Some people only want to help you to help themselves. And some people, they really want to help you because they want to feel like they're supporting you because you are their friend or their confidant, or whomever they decide to identify you in the relationship, right? But do be careful with who you ask help from, and also know that sometimes it's good to step back and say, you know what, is this something I can do? Like, I think it's good to be independent in the search in some ways, because that gives you agency as a person who's searching for your roots. And again, it's not a bad thing also to ask for help. So kind of weigh your pros and cons with how you're asking for help, who you're asking for help from. Also, don't be afraid to ask questions of other people who have been searching too. Granted, be aware of who you're asking questions of, because some people are more private. So I think that's something to learn when you're doing your search, is that, people may be public on their online profiles and, WeChat or Weibo or things like that, but do really consider how you're approaching people if you're interested to search. Some people, they're more like an open book, and they would be happy to help you, discuss the trials and tribulations of a search. Others may be more private, so definitely respect that of people. Um, I also think it's good to just keep your search hat on. Just always be interested to learn about the nuances of the people. Know that other people's communication can be, varied. So don't assume things of people. I think that's the most important thing about searching is that your perception of people may change very quickly and maybe it'll be slow. So be patient with yourself when searching and asking questions. Also understand the bureaucracy that you're working with. In this case, China. China's bureaucracy is very complicated, just as the US's or the country that you're adopted to. So try and understand and do your research and do your homework to know this, because this is what I learned very quickly is that some of the people you might think might be very helpful to you, yeah, maybe they're helpful for that second. But sometimes it may feel like you're going down the rabbit hole and you will get lost very quickly. And that's okay. That's part of the search. Sometimes you might be misled down the wrong road. But also just, again, back to agency, make sure that you know, is this something I want to continue for now? If it's not, it's okay to take a break. And like I mentioned before, checking in with other people, checking in with yourself, and also acknowledging that you may have some other current life experiences that are kind of, weighing you down or distracting you from your search. And that's okay too, because again, life happens, things happen. So, and one other tip I would say is document, document, document. Like do as much as you can to document your experience however you want. If you want it in public format, go right ahead, but do know that you might get some pretty harsh critics. You will have to have a thick skin for people who want to, give their 2 cents and things like that. If you would rather only have your friends and family know, you can always privatize your, your blog or your video blog or whatnot. But do try to, again, understand how you're putting yourself out there. If you prefer only people know just by word of mouth, then you can go that route too. But I think most importantly, really understand your network of people you're working with. One thing I also learned is when you're hiring searchers and people who are going to help you, be careful how you come across to your searcher, because you want to be fair to them as they would be fair to you. So if you do sense that you're not having a clear understanding of the searcher and their expectations and vice versa, do try to communicate that in the beginning, because I learned later in my search, even though I was having a casual conversation with someone, I had no idea that they actually knew someone else who was in my search network. And unfortunately, things got misunderstood very quickly. So this is something that I learned, is that do be careful who you talk to about your search and why you're talking to them, because word can get around pretty fast. In some cases, it's a great thing because you have reinforcement, you have support. But in other ways, it can seem like maybe possibly an insult to the person that you have hired. Um, Business in China versus business in the US is very different. And I think it's important to know that the difference in which people do business on a more personal level versus on a more public level. Um, Again, you will learn along the way in your search what's good, what's not good, what you could probably do better in. And again, like I said, I think it's important also to know that the search can be what you want it to be. Meaning, if you want to go slow, go slow. If you want to rush through things, then rush through things, but know that the details are what is most important. And I also think regarding families, do be careful about, like, um, you know, not everyone may have the best intention to connect with you. And I'm not saying this as a means of insult, but more that you have to be careful about your own self, being that you're from whatever country you're from, people will possibly take advantage of that. And they may take advantage whether by chatting you or texting you or sharing really unusual information that's not relevant to your search. For example, I had people asking me if I'd want to date them, which that's not what I was interested in. And they had no association with China whatsoever, except that they saw my story in the news. So again, this is another example of just, again, be mindful of who's contacting you. And if you need to, make a pseudonym, make an alias for yourself. You can even, make a false location of where you're from technically, obviously not on your posters and things like that, but the moral of the story is just be careful of people and their intentions with you, whether it's a birth family reaching out to you or a news reporter. And again, this is a journey, and I wish you the best in your journey. And I'm always willing and happy to hear you out if you ever want to reach out to me. Thank you.
Hi again, I'm Laney. I was adopted in 1994 from Ma'anshan, Anhui province in China. And so I would say things that I'd like others to know when they're searching is a lot of what Ming has said in terms of your mental health. The searching process is definitely a draining process. Before you begin your search, or if you're searching, if you hire a searcher and are doing it remotely, or if you're physically there in China, it is a very emotionally and mentally draining process. I'd say don't expect to understand or fully digest everything that happens while you're in China. I think it's beneficial if you have at least one confidant where you're able to speak with them and to help you personally process the searching process when you're there. So for me, I had my mom, which was really helpful. And so while we were physically there in China, she helped me when we were meeting families, and even after we go back to our hotel and we talk about it. So definitely having at least one person who can see from the outside what's going on and can help you personally process your experience. I think something else that's important to know is how you approach the searching can change over time. So even years later, like for me, stepping back, taking a break, while I still ultimately do want to find my birth family, other things in my life have happened. And my approach to searching is, next time I do search, is going to be different. My feelings about searching and everything is going to be different just because I've grown as a person, I've aged. And so it's okay to feel different from when you initially start a search 2 years later, if you're still searching or if you've taken a break. Yeah, I think it's really hard to sum up everything I wish I'd known. I think even if you're unsuccessful at searching the first time and maybe you still want to continue searching, you can find that sense of family and belonging with people who may not be biologically related to you. So the people that who do help you search can, in a sense, become part of your family. Or if you do genetic testing through like 23andMe, you can meet biological relatives, and yes, they may be third, fourth, fifth cousins, but having that connection can really help you. Like personally, I have a fifth cousin who's a lot younger than me, and she has become family to me, and I've become family to her, and that's been it's been very helpful to me in dealing with the fact that while I have not found my biological parents and siblings, I do have my little cousin, and she's my family. So I think those are all things to consider along with what Ming has said thus far. And I wish everyone luck on their birth parent searching journey at whatever stage you're at.
All right, thank you, Laney and Ming. Again, my name is Charlotte, and I was adopted from Jiangsu province, China in 1995. And let's see, that's a really good question. Things I wish I had known before I started searching. I think one thing that is often left out of considerations in searching is the kind of, and I think Laney also touched on this as well, the sort of mental preparation, and also Ming also discussed this, that I think is helpful for anybody who's decided to search. And I think it is helpful before you head into the searching, if you can take some time to reflect and ask yourself, why am I searching? What am I hoping to get out of it? You know, if I am able to find relatives, what then? What kind of relationship am I looking to build? And if I don't, am I interested in continuing searching? And I think that can help you sort of ground yourself and stay a little bit more centered in the searching process, which, as we've heard, can be very, very emotionally draining. The second thing that I will say, which is more of a, and from here on are more logistical points, is, yeah, it's really helpful. I would think I think it's necessary to have somebody who speaks Chinese with you there. And of course, if you can speak Chinese some yourself, that's really great. But I think, I personally think that it's necessary to have a native speaker with you for issues like handwriting, if you have to decipher hard, difficult to read handwriting. And the second one is any nuance that you might be missing, because learners of Chinese might miss that. The third thing that a native speaker can do is, or somebody local. I think also something helpful is if the native speaker is local, is dialects, because I had spent a long time learning Chinese. I spent 12, 13 years learning Chinese, and then I get there, and it turns out that the family speaks a local dialect that I cannot understand. So yeah, having somebody who can help you navigate that. Actually, what happened was that the parents, maybe from the parents' generation on, they had been taught standard Mandarin, so they could do both. And of course, the generation of siblings had been to school recently, so they also maybe could speak a little bit of English, possibly, but really, I do think my personal recommendation is to have a local native speaker with you, and hopefully, the hope is it's somebody that you trust, and somebody that you feel comfortable working with. The third thing is, if possible, try to see your physical files in person. I don't know, for me, they were housed at the Social Welfare Institute itself. And the reason that I say check it in person is that I had been with my family in 2009 to China to visit the SWI, and they had shown me my file, but I really don't think I saw all of it. In fact, I'm sure I didn't see all of it, because later, maybe 2 or 3 years later, when I learned some Chinese, I ended up sending them a letter, the SWI, or an email, and saying, could you photocopy the information in my file? And turns out they had a note, actually, that was left on me when I was found. And that was a little bit weird. I'm not really sure what happened. I don't know why, but I didn't see that when I had gone in person with my family in 2009. Maybe there was some mix-up. I'm not sure what was going on there. And then what happened a couple of years later, when I did search in 2016, was that, the reporter that I was working with, the key piece of evidence that she was working with that allowed me to locate my biological parents was actually a piece of just like ripped up paper in my file that was connected to the note, and that I guess other people had kind of deemed unimportant. So it's, yeah, I'm not saying that necessarily everybody will have something like this, but I do think if you're going to cover all bases, it would be helpful, if possible, to take a look and not just take somebody's word for it that there's nothing in there. You don't have to worry about it. So that's my third thing. My fourth one is the question. So as I mentioned before in the previous series, I worked with the media, and it was a very public search. And a lot of people asked me, would you recommend it? And that's a very difficult question. I think on the whole, no, I would not. I would definitely not recommend working on the media, but at the same time, I'm not really personally sure, like, whether there was a better way for me to go about it. And then even if I had to do it over again, I guess I would work with the media, because I didn't have any other information. I didn't have any other place to start. So having that reporter working with me, even though she had her own, of course, agenda, and she had her own thing that she was trying to accomplish with my story. But I, at the same time, I had my own agenda for working with her as well. I mean, there are things that I wanted to get out of it too. I mean, she wanted a good story, and I needed the help. So that was something that I personally was willing to make that trade-off, but some people aren't comfortable with that, and that's totally fine. But I think that working with the media, one, it does take away a lot of the agency and power that you have over shaping your own narrative, and especially in the Chinese media. And that can be really overwhelming. The other thing that I can say with the media is, just like having the camera crew and the people, it's just dealing with a lot of moving parts, and media circus is really crazy. So in that sense, I definitely wouldn't recommend it. But at the same time, again, I don't know any other way that I could have done it. And then my last thing, which sort of echoes a little bit of what Ming was saying and Laney was saying, is just kind of expect the unexpected. Or in other words, it's just, there's no way to know kind of how you'll find what you'll find. And it is, of course, it's easier said than done to kind of roll with the punches, but I think if you go into the mindset with the mindset that things are very, rapidly shifting, then you will be able to process information a little bit better. But and then I guess, of course, I also wanted to just say something more generally about my involvement also in this great project from Sofia and Sarah, which is that I personally don't neither encourage nor discourage you personally searching, whoever's watching this video. I think it's just such an individual decision. And I hope that what I share now, if you personally have decided to search, you can take from it what you will, as my personal experience. I'm not saying that it's necessarily the way to do it or the way not to do it, but I'm hoping that it might help you as you search. And of course, like Laney and Ming, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to talk about more.
Hi all, I'm Sofia, and I just wanted to give a huge thanks to Ming, Charlotte, and Laney again. We couldn't have done this without them, and I know I learned a lot and Sarah learned a lot, and I hope you all have learned a lot about parent searching, and I know they gave powerful advice, and so take that of what you will. This is not an easy journey to take, and you can choose to or choose not to, and that's okay. But we just wanted to give this video to everyone and this series to everyone, just to learn more about birth parent searching in general.